I always wish that I could make a little Red Cross box that, you could bring with you and has everything in it. Well, if it was, there should be a tiny little one that would just pump up suddenly when you came home, and it would be just a room full of stuff that you need, because that's what we need. So, that little Red Cross box never came to, because there are things that we should have, for example, in your bathroom. And instead of having Advil and Tylenol that are very, very toxic for you, there are so many other things that you could have. For example, if you have high fever, have white willow at home. It will cut fever, will help you sleep better. White willow is what aspirin was made from. Any pharmacist in the old days would know, that aspirin was made of white willow. Then natural antibiotics are great to have at homes. And we use, of course, echinacea is great to have home. OSHA is great to have home.
How do you spell
OHSA. Yep. Yeah, it's actually, the long name is Lomatium. Lomatium. Silver, colloidal silver, southern silver, excellent to have at home. So, these things we take. Our children, have always, all their life been treated naturally. They never had antibiotic in their life. And they've gone through childhood diseases and flus and colds like, most other kids. But they never needed to have allopathic medicine, because we have used natural medicines like your parents or your grandparents at least understood, and their parents and grandparents. So it's nothing new. We're kind of picking up where people left it somehow. We forgot it for a while, and it's time to bring it all back in. Now, there is a lot of things that we can learn from books, and I just want to introduce, of course, you have my little book that you're all going to get, The Health and Healing. Yeah, you're all going to get that. And I'm going to sign them first for you. And that has more or less everything we're going through in this class here, plus much more. Brian's book, Living Food, of course, if you don't have that, this is everything in a nutshell. And there's a lot of new books coming out from Brian very, very soon. China Study, excellent. Give you more information when your friends ask you, why don't you drink milk? What happened to the dairy products in your life? It is excellent by Dr. Campbell. 100-Year Lie by Randall Fitzgerald, telling you how he used himself as a research actually, and to see how you can detoxify chemicals and metals and poisonous things. So he went through the program at the Institute, did tests before the program, did tests after. It was incredible. So that is a great book, 100-Year Lie. And if you want to learn more about healthy gums, now have you heard the latest? There's so much, of course, spirochetes that so many of us harbor in our gums. And they live 3 millimeters down in our gums, and the flossing and the brushing did not get to them. Of course, it's foods that we eat, all the sugar, all the heavy carbs that they love. But they can also travel into their arteries and cause plaque. So that can be a big problem for cardiovascular disease. But now they also found that it could cause pancreatic cancer. They've actually found a big link. So this is great. So now, yep, Healthy Gums Naturally. It's by Dr. Harrison, and we've worked with him for years. And he found that we really need to use a water pick to get into these spirochetes. And I see them when I look at. We take a swab of from the gums, and we put it on the microscope, and I can see them if they're there. And I can see the same spirochetes that I saw in your gums. Then later I can see them in your blood. So of course they travel. So that's a great book. Of course, this one, Health Food Cuisine, which is it's great. This is our. That's our new. Yeah. Did you really? That's our cookbook. So Kelly and I brought this one together. So that's. Yes, very nice. So, you know, it's great to get some more information about that. Now, for example, what happens, how do we detoxify chemicals and metals, heavy poisonous things? Medicines are very hard to get out of our system. You could not find a better diet than this to really help to clean. But we can also add supplementation. Magnesium, you know, we use liquid minerals to clean up too. Magnesium is a great cleanser, especially of aluminum. And the magnesium is also, of course, great for so many things to help our muscles and joints and everything. So magnesium in liquid is great. We can have it in tablets too. You gotta make sure when you choose supplementation though that it is from plants. So much is totally synthetic. It's gonna cause you more harm than good. So, but mainly, let me go back to healthy stuff that we can do at home. So the first thing I wanna do is to go through what we can do with wheatgrass. Now, wheatgrass is such a fantastic food, and we drink it. We drink 2 ounces twice a day. So 2 ounces of juice we drink twice a day. Then we, for the 3 weeks, for example, when we first start, if this is brand new for you, we are very much promoting that we clean our colon to begin with. So we take an enema with an implant of wheatgrass juice. So we do a 4-ounce implant. That is then bringing in minerals, electrolytes that we did lose with the enema. And forever from now on, if you do a colonic or you do an enema, remember you need to do a chlorophyll implant. Of course, if you can have wheatgrass, that it's the ultimate. But otherwise, you have to have some form of chlorophyll to replenish repeat the chlorophyll that you lost there. Implant is so fantastic. It will go in and clean up more than the water enema ever did. Plus, there is a vein between the liver and the large intestine called the hepatic vein, and that implant will actually go to the liver and now start to purify and rejuvenate your liver. So it's very, very much used. So we do that in the beginning. Of course, enemas is something you don't do forever. You know, we do them for the 3 weeks. Then after that, as you leave, we do it once a week. And then what our say is we do it for the next 7 years. In 7 years, you have biochemically changed every cell in your body. So after that, then you only do it if you have a cold or a headache or something. So then you're on your own. Now, we can use the wheatgrass in different ways. So we can use it as a poultice. And usually it takes about 2 ounces to do a poultice. Now that is great if I have a cyst, a tumor, a lump that I want to treat. It works similar to when you do the patches, the morphine, nicotine, estrogen, you know, the patches we don't want to have. But, you know, how do they work? They work through osmosis. So this patch is going to work that way. What we need for a poultice, we use these pads you can get in any pharmacy, and you cut it. Let's say I had a quarter-size lump in my breast, for example. I would cut this in squares, and I would take 2, 3 of them. And then I would put the gauze on top, like 2, 3 of the gauze, put on top of that. And then I would take the pulp. So for poultice, you use the pulp and the juice. So when you make wheatgrass, you get dry pulp. You take that, you spread it on the top gauze, and then you add the 2 ounces of wheatgrass juice to that. And then you can either tape it on to the area or just lay it on. Now, depending on where you're putting it, if it's face, let's say, if it's melanoma, if it's skin cancer, maybe I need to put it on a spot, or the breast, then I would only leave it on for 1 or 2 hours. Now, if it's another area, I want to treat my liver, or I have a lump on the leg or something, I can treat it all night. So just remember that face and breast is more sensitive, and if I left it on all night, then often you wake up in the morning and it's all irritated. So instead, we could do it twice a day. We could do it morning and evening, because we'll be drinking it anyway twice a day, so you make it. Then we can do an impacking, and that really takes 6 ounces for an impacking. That you do if you have arthritis, for example, or if I had fungus between the nails, or warts, athlete's foot, very much arthritis. What you do, let's start with your hands. So let's say that I have something going on here now. They're either swollen or I have calcification. Well, I take a pair of socks. It's the easiest to find. So it's a pair of tube socks, it's cotton, and I put it down in the sink. I add my 6 ounces of wheatgrass juice to it. If it's not totally wet, add some warm water, just a little bit. They should be wet. Then I put my thumb in the heel, so I make a mitten. Then I take a plastic bag and I put my glove in here, like that, to tuck, because this I will sleep with. We don't have to look funny all day. This I will sleep with, and this is now going to start to increase circulation, work on the inflammation, and it works on pain. But I finish it with a dry sock. So now I put the dry sock on and sleep like this. You're actually creating a sauna. In the morning I take it off, and everything is so much smoother and softer. Now I can massage every joint of your fingers and move them around as much as you can. And you will be doing this as long as you need it, until you don't need it anymore. Well, what if it's the feet? The only difference, we use the socks, but see what I do, I cut the sock open to the beginning of the foot so there's nothing tight on the ankle. This is great also if you twisted your ankle. The first 48 hours, of course, you use ice, but after that, to help the healing process, you use this. So the sock again, 6 ounces of wheatgrass juice, a little bit of warm water to wet it, and put the foot in, put the plastic bag on, and then put the dry sock on top of that. What if it's my knee or elbow? Or what if it's psoriasis? The same thing, really the same treatments for that. You know, psoriasis is a inflammation of the skin, just the same as you have inflammation of the joints. And sometimes we have both of them. So now I use a towel. Of course, 6 ounces is not going to wet this, so I put it in the warm water. You can add the wheatgrass exactly where you're going to put it. So let's say I'm going to do the knee, so I put it over my knee. Then I take a plastic bag and open it both ways, you see, so I can step into it. So I have the towel around, I step into the plastic bag, and then I take a dry towel on top of that. So the same idea, wet. If you are in places where you have no wheatgrass, then you just use warm water. You know, you use the same idea. Of course, if I can add wheatgrass, I get even more out of it. So then I can hook it up with some security pins, sleep with that. In the morning, what happens when we have, for example, arthritis, especially rheumatoid arthritis? There's a certain walk we get as years go by, and we get totally stiff. We start walking like this. What happens is that this patella, this little thing that you can move in front of your knee that actually allows you to move your knee. Well, that one gets stuck. You know, everything calcifies slowly but surely when we have arthritis. It starts to calcify due to inflammation, acidity. So as that starts to calcify, it gets totally stuck and we can't move the legs like we do. So we start to pack our knees in like this. And I ran a clinic in Sweden for 10 years, and every day I packed people in with that, every day. And in the morning when we unpacked, every day somebody would say, look what I'm able to do. And I found that patella, every day I would used to sit and try to move it. If it was totally stuck, every day could move it tiny bit. And before you know it, I could move it totally, fully back and forth. Now, of course, that's internally. This external work that we do speeds it up. But of course, internally, there's so much we need to do. We need to be on an alkaline diet. Now, our live food diet is as alkaline as it can be. We tend to be careful with fruit because most fruit is picked unripe. Unripe fruit is acidic. A ripened fruit, especially The low sugary fruits could be alkaline, but most fruits are very acidic because they're picked unripe. And that's unfortunate. I mean, I know being brought up in Sweden, every winter I drank loads of orange juice thinking how fantastic it was, and all it was were enormous acidity. And then on top of it, as we learned, when an orange is picked off the tree unripe, then you become the mother tree. So the calcium that you were supposed to get from that orange juice, you give now to digest it. So actually take calcium from you to digest that orange juice. And calcium, we sure don't want to release like that. We need it. I sit and look at blood tests all the time, and I see how things start to balance itself and what we release when we start to detoxify on an alkaline diet. It's really magic. It's fantastic. Plus, you know, we also use supplementation to aid in that whole process. We use enzymes big time because enzyme, you know, helps your digestion, but the way they clean and the way they want to really help you with metastasis, for example. If we had cancer, it decreases metastasis. So it is a great tool for all of us just to have aid in digestion. But it's an immunobooster, so don't just think of it, you know, as a help for your meals. So now, the next thing we can do is our eyes. And you know, for example, if you have dry eyes, of course, a lot of times it's because we took medication, but also beta-carotene is great. On the green drinks, the wheatgrass has more beta-carotene than carrot juice ever had. So we don't have to lean on carrot juice for beta-carotene. The green drinks, the wheatgrass, more than carrot juice ever had. So, but if you find you have dry eyes, you know, make sure you get your beta-carotene. So eyes, we take half water. Whoops. We take half water, half wheatgrass. And we can do it with a little eyedropper, or we can do it with an eye cup. So I strain some wheatgrass juice and put it into this little eye cup and take half water. And if you haven't done an eye bath before, stand in front of the sink, put the eye cup over one eye and look up to here, and then just open slowly but surely and look from side to side, and then just rinse on the outside. Takes you a few seconds. Fill up again, half water, half wheatgrass, and here I open slowly but surely, look from side to side, and rinse on the outside. Great. A lot of people swear by this, that they don't have cataract anymore. A lot of problems are gone. Of course, this is only one tool. Eating a nutritious diet, exercise, big time for your eyesight. Eye exercise, like Dr. Bates started to create in the early 1900s, when he was going blind himself, is still ahead of his time with exercise, relaxation, nutrition. You know, he found that glasses was not a tool for eye health. You know, it was just a crutch that we needed stronger and stronger and stronger as time goes by. So eye exercise is really important. And we can do the eye exercise together. I do it really fast, but you should practice it. And, you know, when you do eye exercise, of course, you should be loosened up and you should be relaxed. And don't move your head. And then you would look up and down. You would repeat everything 6 times. So you would look up and down for 6 times. And then you repeat that 3 times. Then you look from side to side over your shoulders without moving your head. There are 6 muscles moving each eye. So you would look from side to side like that. Do that 6 times, repeat it 3. And then go diagonal, upright, down left, upright, down left. Do that 6 times, repeat it 3. Look up left, down right, and do that 6 times, repeat it 3. You know, well, like this would be 1, 1, 2, 2, and so I would do it 6 times. Take a little break, half a minute or so, and then do it again, 3 times, yeah. Now, then a very important one is where you put your finger close. My dad always does this, so he teaches me. He says, you must teach everybody this. It's so important. So this one you put very close to yourself and you stare at it. Then you find a spot far away on the wall, and then you go back slowly but surely, back here, and you go back and forth. So this would be 1, 1, 2, 2. Okay, so 6 times, and then repeat it. Now you really train. And, you know, of course, eye bright is an old trick to help to vitamin C, you know, when we need more help for our eyes. And just very much nutritious diet. So eyes we have fun with. Hair. Oh, this is gonna go down, down, down. Hair, it takes 6 ounces of wheatgrass juice. And hair, you know, of course, I always get the question, what about dandruff? You know, what do I do about dandruff? Well, that impacting with hair would really, really help. Brian knows how to fix that. So, you know, hair is dead. It's the follicles that we want to treat. So you wet your hair, you make it totally soaking wet. Now, a blonde will not turn green as long as it's totally soaking wet. So you soak it, and you pour the wheatgrass, and you have a shower cap handy. You pour it in, and then you can massage it in 15 minutes. Stay in the bathroom because you're just going to pour all over you. But it's so great for the scalp. And then you just rinse it off. Makes your hair fuller, richer. You know, it's a great thing. 6 ounces. Yeah, so you wet it really well first, and then you just kind of pour it in the scalp, and then you can massage it to your hair, you know. No, well, yeah, because you have wet hair, and then you pour the wheatgrass. Yeah. Now, then we can do also a douche. Women can do a douche. And, you know, nowadays we hear a lot about like cervical dysplasia and a lot of fungus and infections. Well, douche, of course, this is for everything, fibroids, you name it, tumors, endometriosis. So douche, we do with a little syringe. And we don't do it every day, we do it every other day. And there also, we take half water. So, because it's too strong otherwise. So now, when we do it, and often, you know, we have a problem to fill this. I often get to hear that we need help to fill it this way. So when you fill a syringe, which you can get in most pharmacies, you squeeze all the air out, and if this is my cup, I fill it this way. And then I take this vaginal, so every other day I get this help. But this has been a great help. Now I can put more stuff in here. I can open a few capsules of enzymes. I can put some probiotic, and I can put some natural antibiotics or natural immunoboosters in here too. So I can get more out of it while I do it. I can of course use the silver. I can put, if I do the dropper, I can take a few droppers of silver into that mix of wheatgrass. The sovereign silver, yeah. This you can have so much use for at home. You can even put this in your eyes, and if you have infection, yeah, if you have infection, you can actually put it in your eyes too. Sovereign silver, SOVEREIGN. So there's a lot of uses for that wheatgrass, and of course you could put it also in a neti pot, you know, a little neti pot with sea salt and wheatgrass and water, and you could clean your sinuses. You know, a lot of times we have chronic nasal congestion due to worms. And parasites, we do use parasite cleanse. Of course, being on a good diet and using high fiber diet is very, very important, but also probiotics. And we use natural anti-parasites cleansers too. We use use one product called Paragon, which are Indian herbs. We use Artemisia, which is Chinese use, and you know, we have had very good results with that. Now, there are a lot of baths that would really be helpful, especially in the detox time, but always. Sea salt. You know, we use Dead Sea salt. It's the lowest part in the world. It has minerals we can't find anywhere in the world. So it's very therapeutic. We do it twice a week. We take a cup of sea salt. So let's do the sea salt. Now, not always do I do dead sea salt. If the kids come home and they have chicken pox or measles, we'll do Epsom salt. It's much milder for that, you know. So keep Epsom salt at home and keep dead sea salt. So you have dead sea or you have Epsom. Then you can make it even better. We find that if we have chemicals, if we have metals in our body, if there's a lot of radiation in our system, or we just had chemo radiation, or we work on computers a lot, or we travel, we fly a lot, we're bombarded with radiation. You know, there's a lot of help that we have out there. One, though, that we can put in the bed is baking soda. Not baking powder, baking soda. And you take a pound. And this is so great also when your kids have measles or chicken pox, that you have that at home, because that soothes it. And you could actually save a little bit of the powder after the bath and put that on where they have it. So I take a pound of that. Then I can make it even nicer. I can put aromatherapy oils. And you know, aromatherapy, lavender, of course, was the first one to even start the whole movement. But there's so many. And a good idea, I always say, you should go in the store and check all the testers, smell them. And the ones that you are attracted to, they would benefit you, you know. You take only 10 drops, because they're either distilled or cold pressed, so it's not the more the merrier, but that will make an even nicer bath for you.
That goes out, and let's say we go for a CAT scan.
Yeah.
The radiation from the CAT
Oh, that will be a great help for you, great help. Now, then the next bath we have is ginger. And of course, ginger is fantastic. Ginger, especially to make us perspire. So we take 1 cup of ginger in a really hot bath. Both of these are hot baths, but this should be so hot you can hardly get into it. If you don't have a bathtub, take a foot bath, because the pores of the soles of the feet are much larger than the rest of the skin. So you actually are like a sponge. So you can do therapeutic the same way in a foot bath as a whole bath. You sit, both of these baths, you sit 15 minutes and then you shower off. And the best time to do this is right before we go to sleep at night, so you relax. Ginger is fantastic to help us detoxify because it makes us perspire. So it's a great immune booster, but it makes us perspire. And you know the skin is the largest elimination organ in the body. So boy, if I can perspire, then I'm going to get rid of tons. And if I have fever, if I have a flu or a cold, it can really help by perspiring. It can help to lower that fever for you. So then you drink a lot. And our kids, all their life, they've asked, you know, whenever they feel they have a cold coming on, to get a ginger bath. So that usually takes care of them. They actually never miss a day of school, ever, because we've just done natural methods for them. So you could put the aromatherapy oil, eucalyptus, or whatever you like to prefer in there, too.
This is ginger oil?
Nope. Now, let me tell you, this is fantastic. This is powdered ginger, ground powdered ginger. It is so fine. And, you know, when you get it, you open it in catty angle so you can have it. This has a mind of its own. So you have it for a long time. But see, now you see my Red Cross box. It's growing. We have it. Most health food stores have, but, you know, we have it in, you can get it in a 1 pound. So then you have, then you have it for some time. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is garlic oil. For open wounds, there is no infection that can survive a garlic oil treatment. I've done this for more than 30 years, and there has been no infection, an open wound infection, where garlic oil did not succeed. And what it is, you know, you take your garlic, you peel it, you take it through the garlic press, and you only take what comes out of the press. You only take the fine pressed garlic, because it's going to be very small, but you are going to use it, the garlic too, on your skin. But it's 1/3 of pressed garlic and 2/3 of oil. Garlic, here we go. Then, and Yeah, olive oil, you know, some good cold press, could be flax, anything like that.
I get bitten by cats,
Yeah.
and can I have it ready?
You can have it ready. Another thing that you should have is something called Neem Cream. When you mean if you have an open wound, you want to do garlic oil. Yeah.
Yes, but when it happens, you know, I have other clients waiting and
You can make it for 4 days. You can have it for 4 days. After that, you need to get rid of it. But you can make enough for 4 days. Neem is actually a natural pesticide, but that would be great for bug bites and that. But if it opened, if you have an open wound,
the teeth or the claws.
yeah, then I would get the silver first, and then the garlic oil as a poultice. See what you do then, you take gauze. If you have the garlic oil in a bowl, you put the gauze, you just let it soak up what it needs, and then you put it right on the wound, and more gauze, and you tape it on, you know. Yeah. I mean, we have so many stories. So many people have come with staph infection and all kinds of infection. Of course, gangrene, which normally ends up in amputations that can be treated, especially in open wound like that with garlic oil, will be successful.
Can I have a question?
Yeah.
I use the oregano oil right now,
Yeah.
but it doesn't taste very good. But I don't know really.
You mean for the garlic?
Yeah, for myself.
Yeah. But garlic, you will always make sure you don't get an infection if you have garlic in there. Oh, it's absolute natural antibiotic.
Does it burn?
Does it burn? No. When you mix it with the olive oil, you can put it anywhere on your body, anywhere. Absolutely.
Isn't that like tetanus? Like, you know, if your child's not vaccinated, will it like prevent against that?
The garlic oil? No, that I couldn't say. No, but an open wound that is on its way to go bad, that's for sure. Now, for example, let's say that we're dealing with, so that's open wounds. Let's say we're dealing with diabetes or low blood sugar, which is so common. You know, now so many kids, they're in the early teens and they're already showing up with diabetes too, which is very much lifestyle problems. Well, so low blood sugar makes a lot, that means we make a lot of insulin. And the problem also by making a lot of insulin is not only we be hypoglycemic, we wake up every morning and we end up with low blood sugar. You know, glucose on a blood test should be 85 to 95. Now, yeah, it's about 4 to 6, I think, for you guys. Now, look, a lot of you, like when you first arrive to the institute, you might come in 85. And then after 3 weeks of cleansing, you're 55 or 60, and you say, I was better when I came. What happened here? Well, in the cleansing and not eating fruit for a while and just eating greens and building foods, then we get to see what really is going on. And low blood sugar is so common. And the problem with having a high insulin is that, of course, insulin works on the blood sugar, is that not only is it lowering our blood sugar, but insulin is a hormone that actually promotes fat storage. So, you know, so many of the kids now cannot lose weight either. And another reason of that is that all the caffeine and all the sodas they drink also decreases lipase, which is the enzyme the liver makes to digest fat. So it's a totally vicious circle. And then the other worst of it all is that insulin promotes cancer. It actually increases cancer cells growth. So, you know, we don't want to be there. So for a while, we might even have to get off fruit. For a while, if we find that we drop from 85 to 60 after 3 weeks of cleansing, then we should be really serious with that and fix it so that we're not always. And you know, it takes you for a ride emotionally too. Not only is it physical, when you're up, you're up. When you're down, you're down. It's the same emotionally. And talk about emotional stuff. So many people are on antidepressants. And the problem, you know, of course, antidepressant has a place sometimes in our life, but long-term use of antidepressants, will lower your own serotonin. And it's not known if it's really permanent. We don't even know if it's permanent decreased. And the problem is that serotonin turns to melatonin. And so melatonin, then you need to sleep well. So if I have antidepressants, then I'm going to need sleeping pills, and it's a vicious circle for a long time. Then, so I can use other things, and you should know this. We use GABA. We made a product called Accelerate. It's fantastic. We have blue-green algae that actually increases endorphins. We use the phycomin there, and 5-HTP that's been used by so many people successfully. So we got to find other ways to keep ourselves healthy, body, mind, and spirit. Because long-term use of medication is not going to go well. And we find so many people come to the Institute who wants to get off and they want to finish, and it is not an easy thing, but it can be done. So the diet, of course, helps enormously, and especially fixing the blood sugar balance. So if I now come and I don't have enough insulin, and I take insulin or I take glucophage or so, then you find that the need of those medications on a live food diet gets less and less and less. And you follow it. Of course, you test all the time to see where you're at so you don't overtake. But it's fantastic. So it's definitely a diet that will balance your blood sugar, but it takes a while. It doesn't happen overnight. Yeah. And E3 Live is fantastic. Yeah, with definite. All the algae, chlorella. Chlorella is great for blood sugar. We take tons of it. You could have it handy and take a little palmful 4, 5, 6 times a day when you need it, especially in the beginning. And we use fenugreek. Oh, yeah. Fenugreek is great. In liquid or pills. Yeah, liquid, you mix it in with water and you drink it, like a fifth of a dropper, or if you have it in the dropper. Fenugreek, yeah, not essential oil. It's you buy it as a tincture. Fenugreek, yeah.
What happens when you take a lot of chlorella and then suddenly you develop a sensitivity to sulfur?
Oh, do you? Well, maybe you're more sensitive, but we use it so much, We use it all the time at the Institute. So let me talk about that. I only wanted to make sure. Now, probiotic and mainly, let me talk more about the colon, because we did the enemas and the implants. Well, colon cancer is third of all cancer. One in 20 of us are going to get it. That's what they figured out. 1 in 20, can you imagine, colon cancer? We sit and look at it all the time, and younger people are getting it, especially rectal cancer. So, we know, of course, number one, we need to be on a fiber-rich diet. We need to exercise. We need to have enough enzymes in our food. So, of course, a live food diet is excellent. Probiotic is a great help. What happens many times, if this is a cross-section of your gastrointestinal tube, friendly bacteria should cover the whole inner wall of that intestine. And if it isn't covering, then harmful bacteria can get in and cause trouble. Yeah, we gotta wait. Diverticulosis, which is pockets, it happens when our diet doesn't have enough of probiotic, or friendly bacteria, and it happens when we didn't get enough fiber and enough fluid. Remember this, we're supposed to drink 1/2 ounce per pound you weigh. So if we don't get enough fluid, that's not going to work well either. So we find, of course, because it's the third of all cancer, that is, very, very important. Imagine your intestinal tract is like 6 times your length. Small intestine about 26 foot long, large intestine 5 to 7 foot long. So, so much is happening. About 90% of your absorption happens through the small intestine. So whatever you put in, so, if you thought of it as a business and you had this 6 times your length part of this business that was so important for your whole absorption of nourishment that you actually got what you needed, and that it didn't start to have problem with all kinds of bacteria that could grow because we didn't have enough probiotic. By the way, if I take antibiotic, it kills probiotic. If you ever have to take antibiotic, double up on doses of probiotic. Forever remember that, because it kills it. Coffee kills it. The most sodas, alcohol. Most, of course, chemo and radiation. So many times after chemo and radiation, you get diarrhea, and nobody tells you better be on probiotic. Oh, absolutely. So that's very, very important that we replenish that. Now, what else did I want to talk about? Let's see. We use far infrared at the Institute. We have a bed called Vegan. It's a far infrared bed from Japan. It's fantastic because it's little jade stones in that machine that you put on your body where you need it, and it heats your body up. Vegan. Yeah, Megan. Yeah, it's fantastic. So far infrared we use in saunas. It's used very much at the Institute because it can help so many things. We have so many uses, especially tissue, muscle, but you also have use for blood pressure, blood sugar, you name it. So it's used very much. So that's, you might even want to get something like that. You might want to get a far infrared sauna so you can go in and perspire. Yeah, and let's wait for the questions. But anyway, so, there's a lot of tricks that we can bring home and make our home to a spa or to a healthy place for ourselves too. Really our home should be a healthy place, but most of the times our home is one of the most toxic places you can be in. So let's start to change, and let's start to use biodegradable products at home, so we don't use things that, especially if you have little kids, that you have to have in lock. If they have to be interlock, believe me, they shouldn't be in your house. And those were the main things. Then many people stop. I brought this because many people want an alternative for coffee, and I know a lot of vegan vegetarians still are hooked on coffee. And coffee is so enormously acidic. When I sit and look at uric acid, uric acid will go sky high when we have coffee in our life. So I know a lot of people needed to get some pep in the morning, and because it's such an old habit, emotionally too. And so there is these grain coffees that will do the trick, and that it's very important to do something about the coffee because it's very acidic, and acid creates so much problem, from cancer to headaches, arthritis, inflammation, psoriasis, you name it. And even problem with our eyes and ears, So it goes so far. So try to find other alternative, for the highly acid things that we kept. Yeah, Valtechino is one brand. There's a few you can find in the health food store. I love to talk about cayenne because it can stop external bleeding and internal bleeding. Cayenne is a great tool to have at home. We don't use, in cooking or anything, we don't use black and white pepper. We don't use sea salt, no sugar. But we can use cayenne. Actually, if you come to the Institute and you have an ulcer, I'll put you on cayenne. I'll tell you to take cayenne because it actually helps to heal an ulcer. Yeah, stomach ulcer, colon ulcer. So cayenne, though, is great for external bleeding. Let's say that you had a cut in the kitchen, and that we always cut ourselves. The first thing to help to stop that bleeding is you pour cayenne on it. It stops bleeding. And then to not get infection, then I make the garlic oil, and I make a little poultice with that, and you're never going to get an infection. A young lady came to the Institute and a few years ago, and she was on a sidewalk, and she was going to cross over the road, and there was a big bus coming, and as the bus passing, there were no traffic behind. Nobody was behind. So the bus passes, she looks one more time, nobody was there, and she takes her leg out, ready to go, and a motorcycle cop comes out of the blue, and he cuts her leg right under the knee. So what happens, she was in coma for a long time, and the tissue here got totally infected. So she's laying there on IV, she's in coma, and they cut the tissue to expect new fresh tissue to be there and grow healthy, and so she could heal and get prosthesis. It didn't happen. It got infected again. They got infected again, they cut. So when she walked through it, a friend of hers that had been through the program at the Institute got rid of her cancer. She told her about the Institute, and she brought her here. So she went through the 3-week program. The first thing that I would do would be to make that garlic oil for tissue that's infected. It has never failed. So we made a poultice, showed her how to do it. She put more gauze around it to hold it. In 4 days, it killed the infection. In 4 days, it killed the infection. In the 5th day, she takes a cab down in West Palm and goes to a guy that makes prosthesis. 2 weeks later, she has it. She puts jeans on. Nobody would know she ever had a problem. So, you know, that's how garlic oil works. It will never fail. So we have a lot of fun with that. Mainly things that we should have at home. We should have garlic. We should have ginger. Another thing we should have at home is aloe. You know, you should have aloe plants at home. Boy, are they great if you ever get cut. Oh, no, burn, sorry. If you get a burn in the kitchen, or you burn yourself on the iron, you don't use garlic oil. You don't use ginger. You don't use wheatgrass for that moment. Wheatgrass comes later. It's great to really do the final healing, but you use aloe. It's so great. Like a sweet story, our little Blake, when he was 2 years old, had never seen hot tea. And I had friends from Sweden. It was Christmas. And we had friends from Sweden, and so everybody drinks tea, of course. So I just poured in the cups in the kitchen, I had just poured the hot water into the tea, and I was just going to bring them to the table. Well, Blake came into the kitchen, and he saw the fumes, you know. It was so funny how it looked. So he takes one of these cups, and it falls right on his arm, burns all the skin. I ran out in the yard or garden, and I got big pieces of the aloe, and I cut slices, and we put them all over his arm with gauze. The aloe soothes, and it heals. So it's great for burning. And in a few days, I kept on doing that and repeat it, change. In a few days, it was all healed. You know, so aloe is great. So if you don't have a garden, put a few plants in your kitchen. You know, this should just be there. So aloe, if you have a baby or grandkids and they have diaper rash, you know, then this aloe is the best you can do there. Or jock itch, things like that. So a lot of uses. Now, aloe was used by the Native Americans for just about everything. So aloe we can also use internal. Yeah, we use it a lot at the Institute, especially, of course, for gastrointestinal problem. If we come with colitis or Crohn's or, you know, diverticulosis or anything, constipation, yeah, diarrhea, you know. Well, you can drink if it's liquid, and well, if you made it yourself, or if you bought it, you can drink 2-3 ounces twice a day. Oh, if you take fresh, that would be great. 2-3 ounces twice a day. You know, the more urgent in the beginning, take more. So aloe definitely should be at home. So that's another thing. Try to think, what else do you need in your cupboard? So books are great. The silver should be at home. Ginger, sea salt, cayenne, which is easy. Some aromatherapy oils, especially if you have anxiety and, you know, it's been a tough day. You know, keep things like ylang ylang. It's great. Lavender too. It helps you relax at night. So you take that before you go to bed, and you have much better sleep. Of course, you know, there's so much talk about sleep. Every other ad on TV is about sleeping problems. I mean, you would think nobody sleeps in the United States because You know, the two things that we have problems with is obviously acid reflux and sleeping, because that's what it's all about. Well, talk about acid reflux. You know that we make a new stomach lining every 5 days. So we find at the Institute, most people, if they come in and they're already on antacids, they can usually leave them in a week because the diet has worked so well. I mean, most people are so happy to see how fast they don't need that and how fast it's calming with an alkaline diet, and especially living food diet. You know, so that is not a big problem, but we're making it a big problem. And of course we need to relax. You know, we need to relax before we go to sleep. If we bring all our problem to bed, we're going to lay there and think forever. Calcium, of course, is an old trick to help us sleep better. Magnesium helps, especially if we have sleep problem and also get cramps at night. So keep magnesium. There's so many uses for that magnesium. So, you know, and exercise. We take a walk every night. Of course, when you have a dog, you have to take a walk. That is a must. But just taking a good walk before you go to sleep. You know, they found that if we take a walk, if we walk 1 mile, especially if we want to lose weight, let's say we want to lose weight. If we walk 1 mile a day, in a week we lose a pound, just from walking 1 mile a day. Can you imagine? Now, thinking about that, most people, especially starting with raw food, find that they lose weight and they don't want to lose weight. So that's the first question we get at the Institute. I don't want to lose weight now, so what can you do with me? And you know, it takes resistant training to really keep bone weight and muscle weight, and that's really the weight we should have. We shouldn't have the weight of heavy-duty, you know, cooked foods, because they put weight on you, but that's not the weight we should have, you know. We should have weight from muscles and bone weight. So it takes resistant training. It takes things like we do yoga, we do Pilates, you know, it really takes even weight training. So, you know, if you haven't started that yet, think about that the food is only going to take us that far. The next step is that we need to do resistant training. And you know, with resistance comes strength in every which way, you know. So we're open for questions. Now I can open, yeah.
When you're traveling,
yeah.
you want to do an implant and there's nothing else, can you use powder?
Yeah, you can use any blue-green algae, or you can use chlorella powder. You just need to have some chlorophyll powder when you travel, yeah. And that's great when you travel to make a green drink out of it too, if you can't find one, yeah.
I had someone ask me, why is it every 7 years that we regenerate?
No, we regenerate constant, but in 7 years we've gone through everything. We have biochemically changed every cell in your body. But we changed totally. You get a new skeleton every 3 months, new skin every month. I mean, it's constant, but some takes much longer. So in 7 years, you have biochemically changed every cell in your body. And there's definitely something to 7, like we fast every 7th day. We take a day of rest. We just drink juice.
It has something to do with the calendar.
Yeah, okay. It definitely does. So we, you know, it's very good to take a break every 7th day. Not everybody's ready right away. A lot of people, of course, with diabetes or really low blood sugar, it's not maybe ready. But what we find, the first week, a lot of people hold off doing the fast, and usually by the 2nd and 3rd, they want to try it, and they're surprised how easy it was, because of course we do juices all day, so you are getting your nourishment to keep, you know, to keep everything going. But so water fast is not something we promote in any way. It's when you fast, we do juices, you know. Yeah, yeah.
You said, well, when you take antibiotics, take double. Is there a better time? Let's say, because I say that, well, I do give antibiotics to the cats.
Right.
For certain
Yeah.
conditions.
Yeah.
And I wonder if, when should I give it? Like
To the
in
cats?
between? Well, a couple of hours after.
Because your cats get antibiotics?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well,
I'm a veterinarian.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I treat all the cats.
You do? How sweet. Well, so anyway, the thing is, I guess you should do it in between then. Yeah. I have a sweet story about a cat.
And night, so then, but do they, anyways, so in between.
Yeah,
I'll manage the rest.
yeah. Let me tell you a sweet story about a cat. You know, you cannot make a cat do this naturally if they had a problem. So we had a cat, and the cat came in. It was at the clinic in Sweden years ago. So this cat came in, had no hair on her. She was so skinny, and she was a big cat otherwise. So the owner came in with this cat, took a room with 2 beds, one for the cat, one for him. And I tell you, this cat could hardly move. So what we did, we took her into the shower, showered her wet, and then I put garlic oil all over her, and you know what she did? She licks it up, of course. And I tell you, in 2 weeks, that cat jumped off the 2nd floor balcony, and she was in full swing, back to normal. But so a cat, of course, if you want to give her something, you put her on her fur, and she'll lick it up.
Okay, so, okay.
Yeah. All right. Now, it's been wonderful to talk to you, and, you know, we have more time. Hopefully, I'll see you at the Institute, or you keep in touch with us, but it's been great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.